I'd like to share with you a little bit our point of view and some examples of how we've been putting AI to use in Newsela Writing. I'll just start out by framing the problem that we're trying to solve here. Writing has been of great interest to us since we first started Newsela. For anyone who is working with writing in their classroom, they know the power of this to unlock literacy and improve their own understanding as a teacher of your student's voice in a way that really you cannot do in other ways. But one of the primary challenges as a teacher of writing is the sustainability and scalability of the practice that you need to give your students, the number of at-bats that they need, and the timeliness, the precision of the feedback that they require in order to continually iterate and improve on their writing is exhausting, to say the least, and it's hard to sustain. So we see a role for generative AI with proper constraints, and we think we can constrain the solution here appropriately and in a way that's transparent. We think there's a role for it to play in providing that kind of feedback to students, and we want to stay aligned with the teacher and the expectations that they tell us they have for the student's writing, and try to make this as transparent as possible and as evident to the teacher that we're applying those rules and as evident to the student as possible. So I'm going to show you 3 experiences within Newsela Writing. The first is going to be the creation of an assignment. The second is going to be how students complete that assignment. And then the third will be what the teacher is seeing while students are working. So Newsela Writing is made up of assignments, and you can see a couple of assignments that I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and create an assignment and just sort of walk through that process. So I'm going to make a few choices. These choices are familiar to me as a teacher of writing. The length of the assignment that I'm going to give, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to choose a short answer, which is a single paragraph. The second is what kind of genre. So Newsela Writing and Luna wants to know what kinds of expectations should be placed on the writing. And so I'm going to choose argumentative persuasive because it's a genre that really crosses easily across science and social studies, making a claim, supporting it with evidence, and then explaining the rationale for that evidence. And since, as Jason mentioned, we have a lot of interest in our content, naturally, as Newsela, I'm going to start with a piece of Newsela content, and I'm going to add that here to my assignment. And I'm going to use this as the basis for students to do writing. So I'll continue with that added content. And then finally, Newsela Writing wants to know, what is the question I'm asking my students to contemplate as they're reading this? So I have a question prepared here. Does playing video games cause violence? I can use Newsela Writing and ask Luna to help me with creating prompts, or I can just use this prompt. For time's sake, I'll just go ahead and use that. I happen to be logged in as a teacher in Ohio, and Newsela Writing knows this, so it's going to default to the appropriate rubric for that, the genre, length, and where I am. But I have choices of other rubrics if I want them. We're going to see some sentences applied, some sentence labels applied here, this is the terms that are being used, and I'm going to tell Newsela if my classroom, I want to use, instead of background, I want to use detail. That's something that I can show that preference. I can also be more strict or less strict when it comes to the in-text citation. In this case, I'm going to be less strict. We have an exciting new update coming on this front shortly, so stay tuned. So I'll create my assignment from here. I'll get a link to share with my students, but importantly, as a teacher, I can now preview this. And so I'm going to get into the second of the 3 experiences, which is, what does this look like for students when they're doing their writing? So I have the article on the left, I have my writing space on the right, and I've written something, so you don't all have to watch me type. I'm going to paste it in here, and then I'm going to go to this review work tab. And the review work tab is where I'm going to open up my conversation with Luna, and Luna is going to have 2 types of feedback to give me. The first is going to be on the types of sentences that I've written, and the second is going to be on how I'm doing relative to the expectations of the rubric. So I'll start by checking for sentences. The sentences that Luna is checking for are based on the expectations that the teacher, I in this case, have laid out in the assignment. So I'm looking for analysis sentences, thesis sentences, background, and so on. If I have questions as a writer, I can look to see the definition of these, see some examples of these. The goal here is to make me more self-sufficient so I can answer questions that are immediately at hand, and I can continue writing. The more I can write, the more I can respond to feedback, the more I'm going to improve as a writer. And so the second piece of feedback, as I mentioned, is the rubric. And so here, this is the rubric itself manifest inside Newsela Writing. So the terms thesis, organizational structure, if you teach in Ohio, you're familiar with the Ohio State rubric using these terms. And I can ask for feedback against the rubric here as a writer, again, looking for some evidence that I'm making progress against the expectations of the assignment, but I also have some work to go to do. And so each one of these represents an individual criteria. And then here's the most useful point for the student is that as I have a question about any one of these particular meters, let's say elaboration, I can click and I can drill down more deeply and get a set of glows and grows. Here's what's working well, why the dial is where it is, and here's where I can grow and an area that I can use to improve. So that's the student writing experience. And not surprisingly, if I were to add more writing to this, we would see both the meters change, we would see the sentences change, and I'd have an opportunity to see my own progress. So students are using this on demand when they want a question answered, basically, how am I doing against the expectations of this assignment? So that's the second experience. Now, the third experience is on the back end, so to speak. As a teacher, I have a view of my students' writing, and you can see the same terms that I was just seeing as a student. If I'm Benjamin Campbell, I'm seeing that I have a thesis. I'm seeing that I have background. My teacher is seeing the patterns that are developing over the course of the assignment and students are writing. So it may or may not be surprising to the teacher that not every student in the class yet has evidence. And I might want to drill down and see how that meets my expectations or doesn't. And I can start to see some patterns developing across the rubric scores as well. Feedback requests, time spent, and so on. And if I want to drill down to better understand an individual student's writing assignment, I can go in and I can see and I can visit their writing. I can see the feedback that they're getting, for example, the sentence highlights, as well as the rubric feedback. And I can always add comments so that my voice is heard alongside the feedback that they're getting from Newsela Writing. So that's just a brief, quick tour to really understand how this all works. You're going to want to play around with it. You're going to want to create some assignments. You're going to want to see how your students are benefiting from this. But hopefully that gives you a sense of the problem we set out to solve and how we're solving it.